going, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're on then.
Tonight's meeting is has a joint meeting posted with the Finance Committee,
Advisory board.
Advisory Board, AKA Finance Committee. Advisory Board's here in their place.
Former finance committee.
And so let me just run through the agenda, public comments, initial budget discussion and parameters, special town meeting date that is proposed, an appointment of Mr. Tim Stewart to the advisory board, a town hall Halloween decor approval, meeting minutes approval, and some new and old business, and then we'll adjourn. So,
And number 6, treasurer collector update.
excuse me, I'm
Right.
sorry, yeah, I skipped over that. Treasurer collector update. Okay, with that being said, public forum, anybody from the public with comments, questions, criticisms?
Can it pertain to anything other than what you just said?
Yes, it can.
Two folks got a grant for $250,000 to do Joint Grass Brook.
That's correct.
I would like to see if you guys could think it over and give up Joint Grass Brook and put Hillcrest Water Main on that $250,000 and go for a grant on Joint Grass Brook.
Wait, but let me clarify. We didn't receive a grant. We got money from the Senate. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I just, because
No,
you're
all
saying
right,
grant
all right.
now,
We
yeah.
got money from the state.
Right.
250,000. I'm asking if you would think it over about doing 250,000 to the water main and do Hillcrest. And go for a grant, because a grant can do Joint Grass Brook, but it can't not do Hillcrest or any water main. So my request is if we can't look into trying to have the town engineer, since he seems to be the one pushing grants, come up with a grant to do Joint Grass Brook and use that money to do the water main and kill 2 birds. 2 problem birds, as far as I'm concerned, in the town. You know, I know Joint Grass Brook has to be done, or, you know, it should be done. I also know the water line should be done. So I just wondered if you think it over about using that 250,000.
I can think about it. We can think about it. I'm not inclined to go forward with that. I will think about it and see what our grant options are. But honestly, this money has been specifically earmarked for this project. And we have reports from the town engineer stating that this is an imminent issue that needs to be done. We have folks from your department that have said this is an imminent. Yeah. I don't see Hillcrest as being an imminent issue that needs to be addressed.
Well, I guess if you lived on Hillcrest, maybe you would see it differently. Yeah.
That may be true.
Yeah. But
What are the
also
issues on
what's
Hillcrest?
holding it up too is we would want to pave that whole area. I don't want to put down the money and then find out we can do the water main, because then for 5 years you'll sit and wait, which doesn't make sense. We could do 2 birds with 1 stone. Grant does Joint Grass, the 250,000 does the water main, and we get 2 problems out of the way.
Well, there's no guarantee we'd receive a grant for that, first off.
I'm saying, if we can look into it and find out, I'm not saying, I understand that there's a possibility you will not get a grant.
And there are some grants that may require a different design.
Well, that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into it.
And
I
that
think we've
takes
overdesigned it enough.
time too, but,
Personally, I think we've over-designed it enough, because I'm not an engineer, so.
Is there a window of time that we have to do the Joint Grass Brook project within because of the allocation from the Scarsdale Senate?
it's from Senate,
Reps.
it's from
Like,
Kennedy.
is it like, hey, yes, to be 1 fiscal year, or is it, once you get it, you get 3 years to get it going? Or?
It's not clear at the moment.
Okay.
I've been in touch with Rep. Scarsdale about trying to figure out where the earmark falls so we can reach out to the agencies to begin the process of better understanding how to access the funds. 'Cause
Okay.
Right now, we haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
Which isn't uncommon, by the way. but,
Yeah, it's still pretty new, so.
Yeah, so once we get in touch with, I think the culvert earmark is under MassDOT. I'm not sure what the earmark, I'm assuming it's fire safety, what is it, Department of Fire Services, I think.
Okay,
But that's not clear at the moment.
All right.
Anyway, Rep. Scarsdale's helping us kind of navigate those waters. So-
okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be good to know just for our own education, what needs to happen with that funding, access-wise and such. I'd like to think that they got it with sort of the guidance that that's what it would be intended for, but if we could access another stream of funding for it, maybe there's some options, but I know we had tried to find ways to fund the Hillcrest water effort in that loop and such. We just ran out of money, which is sort of the story of Dunstable in a nutshell. So
Right, that's why I wanted to. get it.
What's the imminent issue with the Hillcrest water line? What are they experiencing, the users up there?
There's nothing, I guess, per se, I guess, against the water, per se. It's an aspect that's fine, wouldn't be bad to get it out of there, but just put in a brand new line, and bring it up to date. And it also allows us to pave and not have to worry about tearing up a brand new road, because we won't. You know, I mean, the main's over 150 years old.
Yeah.
You know, is it gonna hold up forever? I don't know. I just felt as though that money was set up, for whatever reason it's there. I'm not gonna get into it. But I would like to, if we couldn't get a grant, why not do that with a grant? We cannot do anything, you know, if the culvert needed any help along the way with chapter 90, I would bring it to the board and see if they would go along with it, as long as it wasn't astronomical.
And 250 would cover Hillcrest.
Yeah.
It would address all the houses
Well,
on-
I think it'll go up and around the corner. It won't do the whole Hillcrest, I don't believe. But it'll get that whole section done and all brand new pipe, and it'll stop on the other side, I believe, around the curve, which should be addressed. That's not in good shape either.
And the disposal of the hazardous material?
I'm sorry,
And the disposal of the hazardous
Right.
material for $250,000?
no.
I think they're gonna leave it there. They bury it.
there. We don't have to take it out. Well, it's better to bury it.
It's our children's problem.
No.
They leave it there.
As long as
Welcome
you
to
do this
America.
better alone, it doesn't bother you.
And
Yeah, if the asbestos
If
bury,
they took it out of there, what are they gonna do with it? They're gonna take it over to someone else's yard and bury it.
put it on a barge and ship
Goes
it
to
away.
New Jersey.
So leave it there and don't touch it, and everything's fine.
does it get labeled that it's asbestos? So if you have to dig up the water line in
Well,
the
I
future, they
imagine
don't like put
maybe
them.
Maybe they put a line, you know, a tape
Yeah.
down on it and say hazardous or something. I don't have any answer.
It's just
for it. I
curious,
haven't got
yeah.
that far. But leave it where it lies and let it alone. That's how I feel about it, and I believe that's how they feel about it.
Well, if that's the best practice, I guess. I don't know. It's not my field. But
Well, it's there,
Yeah.
you know, as long as you don't disturb it.
yeah, right. It's fine until you
fine. That's
grind it
right.
up and break
I
it.
agree.
And, yeah. So
But once you disturb it, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah, I mean, if we could look into it, yeah, it is what it is. So.
I just want to do two things.
I'll think about it.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Mrs. Simmons?
Hey, I just wanted to say, nice job the other night on the PFAS stuff. You know, I know it's just the beginning, but at least we got that started here. See what happens.
Yeah, it is just the beginning and.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely. Much more to come with that.
Thank you
Anybody,
for
anything
watching the
else?
meeting.
She was there.
Yeah.
Fiscal year 25, budget discussion and parameters. Mr. Jason, do you want to walk us through that?
Do you want to have these guys call a meeting first?
Did you not call your board to order?
No, we did not call it to order, but we call the advisory board meeting to order.
Ready?
Yes.
Keep us it's on the up and up.
Ready or not?
Especially with this hot
Okay,
topic.
I sent this out to everybody, so you should have a copy, but I'll walk through it really, really
Is
quickly.
that playing now? Is that what's on
Um,
people's screen? No?
So these are essentially the initial estimates we made based on trends. We had talked about these in the past, at past meetings during the FY24 budget process. In general, the estimates were 2% increase in salary, 1% general expenses, 2.5 contract services, and 2 in utilities and energy. There were other outliers to that. Namely, we did increase the school district by 6% based on trends initially. We also, just for funding assumptions, we were reducing the reliance on free cash by 50,000 a year, kind of a step down from that. 110 new growth, 750 in local receipts, and state aid increases 4.5%. We also did add back capital to the budget, so based on just an average, I think it was 3 or 4 years, it was 119, so that's what I stuck in there for a placeholder. So with those estimates, the bottom line was about $400,000 in deficit for FY25 projected. And that had been circulated. I think most people understood that before our first conversation with the school department for the FY25 budget process. So
does that, I assume that this is just like basically level funding for the most part, right? Or does
So that, yeah.
does it put back any losses from last year because we didn't do the override?
It's essentially level service. The only thing I would say we added back was the police cruiser. We were able to take out the police cruiser purchase because we had ARPA funds to use. But we had to add that back if we want to continue to replace a cruiser annually. And we did increase PPE, as you see, from 25 to 10,000 in the fire department. Otherwise, it's essentially, it's not level, I know we use this interchangeably, but it's level service budget. And for level service, it's that number, yes. So nothing, we didn't add back the police officer, we didn't add back the fire, yeah. So in August, we started FY25 budget discussions. We're starting early this year, which is a good thing, and I think that was also a result of the FY24 budget process, realizing that we were kind of behind the other 2 calendars with the schools in the town of Groton. So better aligning our budget schedule and calendar hopefully will be beneficial this year. We've created a school town budget working group. We've had our first meeting and talked through. Our first meeting was essentially, I would say, more focused on the town's financial condition and this information. Hopefully in the future meetings, we'll dive into in a little greater detail the school's finances. However, over the course of our discussions and our first initial meeting of the joint group, it's clear that the 6% increase in the schools is not anywhere near what they're going to need. They're presenting at the moment a 14.5% increase in their budget, which is obviously more than double what we were estimating and projecting. Some of the major factors of that increase is the elimination of the kindergarten fee. They have entirely removed the reliance on E&D in their budget. Anticipated increase in employee-related costs, and then just inflationary increases that we're all seeing. Those are the major drivers. And by the way, if you, chair of the select board, chair advisory, we're part of these discussions too, so add whatever you'd like. I've had to increase salaries because we have 52.2 weeks of payroll in 25, so we've seen a slight increase I just want to put all the adjustments out on the table because I don't want.
Just that half
I don't want to
week,
blame
just
it. I don't want to blame it. So we've had to make adjustments. We've had to make adjustments there. You'll see here, I just wanted to point out the new revenue increase we see each year. I just wanted to highlight that. We're projecting a $402,000 essentially increase in revenues year over year. If we're eliminating the use of free cash, that's going to draw down that by $50,000 if we're able to do that. So the real number for total available revenue is only $352,000 if you're taking out the 50 for free cash.
So can I, having been in this town for around 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Have we ever not relied on free cash?
No.
So that's a foreign concept in
And
this town, right?
So, and I don't.
It's a foreign, I mean, 1 year, right, we were down to taking, I think, 15 or 20 grand out. And, you know, the budget does not work, and I got 20 years doing this, and it doesn't work, the numbers don't work. And so, but the state wrote us a letter back several years ago saying, you guys are gonna get off that. But we've never been able to do it. And, you know, I'm just gonna digress here for a second. When you look at these numbers that are here, right, this is the worst we've ever been in, and we got the school district saying, well, we need 14%, and they have all these reasons why. And we're trying to navigate our way through that. And yeah, I don't know how this is gonna shake out with us. This is the worst I've ever seen. And at this point, we don't even have enough free cash to make the thing work. You could run it to zero, and you wouldn't have enough.
Yeah, and that was the big thing. I mean, obviously we've been discussing it, but there was substantial jump from FY21 to FY22, where we almost doubled our reliance on free cash. We jumped from 252,000 up to 459,000. So our reliance on the free cash has ballooned to a point where it's just, you know, it's borderline that sort of irresponsible. Like if something else comes up, we're not going to have any additional funds to be able to get through anything. That's why our goal, at least through our discussions last year, our goal would be to try to reduce their reliance on free cash to get to a point where it's sustainable and not down to the last, you know, several $1,000s to be able to float our operating budget. I think it's a good goal to have. I think it'd be good to even sort of try to maintain that over the next 5 years to get ourselves to a position that's, you know, if we have to dip into free cash by $100,000 and when you have, you know, 400,000 available, that's 25% reliance on free cash. I think that's probably something that we all like to see. But right now, as we're getting to a point where last year was what, 574,000 last year. So, I mean, we're getting to a point where this is, if we don't have it, we're not going to be able to make our payroll, which is not something we want to be doing.
Does this do anything for, we just talked too about putting a certain percentage into the stabilization fund too. We haven't, it doesn't.
It's not in here, nothing.
We only have about 350 or so in our stabilization.
Yeah,
So, and that's not we're not meeting the threshold for a best practice there.
we're not even close.
And I mean, this is not an uncommon problem for many small towns, especially ones a part of a regional school district. Central Mass a lot of towns are facing this very issue, especially post-COVID, and the costs that are coming from academic delinquency from students in the years of just 2 crazy years. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's really, the state has these expectations similar to the PFAS problem, where they're not willing to meet you to help you figure it out and get you through it. It's not a logical equation. Like,
Stay home from school, you fall behind in your classes, you fall behind in classes, you need an IEP. You don't have an IEP, now it's additional funding that's required to meet with that specialist. That IEP requirement is unfunded mandate by the state.
Look at Air Shirley, right? They now have migrants living in a motel there. That's 50 kids being added to their school system with no money.
Everybody, Lowell's has a huge issue with that too.
But Lowell has money.
Oh, it's like something.
They're funded.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it is a pretty bleak picture. I mean, that's sort of what we're at in terms of where
Yeah,
things are looking, but.
I mean, I would answer the free cash question too with, I don't know that our goal needs to be to get off it entirely. But I think to Jake's point, I think he's right on the money, which is we're using it too much. We're using too much of our balance. We're relying on it too heavily. It's too large of a portion of our overall revenue stream. And, you know, there is a balance between having sufficient reserves for a rainy day, which I think we're probably in a storm, a hurricane maybe. But, and also having some ability to use it to supplement that budget.
So based on what I've seen over the last few years, I feel like because of our reliance on free cash, we're kind of hiding the real increases in our budget. Because then people are like, why are we going up by, 6, 7, 8%? Well, it's because we were relying on free cash for 3 years. So,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
right? And that part,
Yeah,
that's
that's a
part of
good
it,
point. Yeah.
That was illustrated
That's
last year during a
that's
couple
the-
presentations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it was crystal clear, like, this is why we rely on X to get to Pasco.
yeah, and we don't really have, if the school budget and even the town budget goes up over 3%, there's no other way for us to fund anything over that, except for using free cash to close whatever the delta is.
Mhm.
That's our option.
And all the ARPA money that we got sort of exacerbated that problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we were
Yeah.
able to get some things done and some purchases that
Yeah.
We also
absolutely would not have been able to come
It
out.
certainly allowed us to remove capital from the equation.
We essentially had one-time funding supporting our revolving costs.
In some ways, yeah. Because, I mean, we know we're gonna have some sort of capital investments every
Free cash
year,
is
whatever it is.
essentially, it's one-time funding, not really something we should be relying on
That's right.
monetarily.
Okay, so, I just go through the operating expense increases for the town, which is about 3.78, based on projections. New cruiser added, salary increases, benefits, insurance are the major drivers. My estimate for pension increase and estimate for insurance increase looks like it's gonna be low, so we have, this is not reflected in this model, but those are increasing slightly more than the projections were. And again, back about $120,000 for capital. So all of those factors, based on the work we've done to date from early August to now, paints a pretty awful financial picture, which gets us to about $1 million hole. You see, I mean, even just looking at between 24 and 25, the total school operating, there's a $1.1 million difference in that spending. And like I said, if you go, this is the new revenue we have coming in. So the new revenue we're bringing in is $700,000 less than just what the schools are asking for.
The cruiser, is that, so we can use the green communities to
It
pay.
covers a portion.
Not all
covers
of
a
it,
portion,
so
not all.
are you accounting for that at all?
I'm not,
Okay.
no.
Just
no.
because you.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It can, I think it's up to 15 or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just a breakdown of revenue. I think we all know this, but it's just a visual for everybody that we are heavily reliant on tax revenue. We don't have much, our other revenues are minor when compared to our tax levy. And that, when you look at 24 and 25, there's not much change. In fact, I don't think there's any change. This just shows our tax levy from 19 to 25. In 22, there was an override for police. We do have excluded debt, as you know, and in 22, was it 22 or 23? 23, I think, there was a capital expenditure exclusion for the schools. This is just a comparison of state aid from 23 to 24. You see, we did see about a $20,000 increase. And in local receipts, it's pretty steady between 700 and 750 each year. Our local receipts, I think everyone knows, but it's permits, licensing fees, et cetera, locally. And yeah. So free cash, the bulk, I should note, the bulk of our local receipts is motor vehicle excise. That's like, I think between 6 and 650 up to 750. It's a large majority of what we bring in. So this is just an analysis of our free cash. I'll just go through 23. So in 23, there was 680 available. 574 was used for operating. There was another 39 appropriated for a variety. I think one of them was the fire rescue truck, and there were a variety of other, I think the OPEB actuarial, et cetera. So our balance remaining right now, as things stand today, $66,000. And here's the charts for free cash. You see from 19 to 24, the trend is not good in terms of our reliance on free cash to balance the budget. You see the increase between that time period is a lot, $440,000. The lower chart just shows our balance after appropriations.
When does free cash come out?
It's certified, but usually in January timeframe.
Okay, so we have no indication of what
We should have
an
some.
idea of what we're
some
looking
idea.
at?
Like I did a analysis at year end.
Okay,
And, we should be in the ballpark of where we were.
That's what you're saying, they're not gonna certify until January.
That's typically when it happens. It can happen earlier. So expenditures, here you go. You can see the 24 total budget. You can see our initial forecast and then our updated forecast. The variance is really driven by that increase in school projections. For this year's budget, schools represent 63% of the overall spend. The next largest is public safety at 13%. The initial forecast has, very similar spread. Schools increased by 1%. And then for the updated, goes up from 63 to 66. Public safety goes down 1%. But, generally speaking, the schools are about 65-ish% of our overall spend. You can't really see that well, but trust me, that's the debt schedule we have. In 25, it's 183,928. This is just a quick analysis of our average single-family tax bill compared to the average statewide single-family tax bill. So you see we have consistently been above average, above the state average. And here's values. You see, I think just because values are going up everywhere, in 23, our values, our home values, we have been consistently ahead of the state average, but we're basically right at state average now. I also kind of pulled together, I tried my best to pull together some comparable community data just to do some analysis on how we compared with other communities similar in size in regional school districts. To the extent possible, we are a very unique community, I will say that. We're a small rural community that has a high income per capita, which is not easy to find across the state. It's really not. I was surprised at how unique it is.
Yeah, but I don't know how real that is. I don't make that kind of money. I don't think that.
Yeah,
We have a couple outliers.
We have a couple
Yeah.
of outliers driving that.
And that
I
could
mean,
be
more than a
driving.
couple.
yeah, it could, that's true, that could be driving it. So this was the best group that, based on the data I had available, I could find from, and this is all the data in the next few slides, comparing us with our comparable communities is from the Divisional Local Services website.
So we the smallest town in Middlesex County by far.
Pretty close.
I don't know that for sure, but I think so.
Yeah, pretty close.
Carlisle comparable.
The per capita,
I don't know, I think
or
it's
the income per capita there drops the state aid, but we're able to.
It dwarfs our income.
Direct correlation
yeah.
between these
25 a
I don't
family.
think there's a direct. So if you look, yeah, I mean,
If 211
They're more
drop down.
competitive
Yeah.
with us than
Yeah.
drops down, like Lincoln, Carlisle.
so I think there is a correlation between the unrestricted general government and the per
But these
capita.
aren't the right academic towns.
Yeah.
Okay, so for FY '22 spending, this is the data that was available in the LS database. Based on these communities, we're right smack dab in the middle. This is kind of a scary slide, but it just, what I did was I broke it down based on category spending. And the graph, the charts are percentage of our overall spend. So for general government, we're last when compared, as a percentage of our overall spend. Police were second highest. Fire were on the bottom half. Education were second. Public works were second to last. Culture and recreation, we are leading the pack. I think that's driven by.
And what does that include?
I think that's driven by our library.
Okay.
Human services were second to last, and debt service second to last. So, take from that what you want. But, if you look at just this, it's pretty clear that what we've chosen to invest in is police, education, and the library.
Why
When
is our
compared-
library so expensive compared to other places?
I haven't done a deep dive in the other communities. They could have regional libraries. They may not have libraries at all. Or they may have something else. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We also paid for the regional.
Yeah.
At the library?
Yeah, because like if you go
The
there.
They do, yeah.
They have network, so we have to pay extra for that, and that might be the difference. I know they cut that at one point.
Yeah, it's their certification, not certification.
No,
What is it?
they're in the Merrimack Valley
The consortium.
Yeah,
That's what it
right.
is. Yeah.
Okay, so this just emphasizes the fact we were talking about earlier, the percentage of the tax levy as a percentage of our overall revenue is substantially, it's 5% higher than any of the other communities. I'm not going to go through that. This is just the detail behind the roll-up of the forecast. So that's the information, updated information in a nutshell.
Are there any other variables that aren't in here? I know the PFAS.
So yeah, the PFAS thing is going to need to be funded in some ways, where I had my first meeting with Tom Groton today, this afternoon, to try to come to agreement on the cost share. We know that it's going to be at least about $1.9 million cost to the town of Dunstable, and potentially more. Other variables.
school hasn't finished that negotiation with them.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. They have negotiations with their labor unions. But geez, I hope that 14.5% can absorb that.
Well, the paraprofessionals as well.
Yeah.
They only had a recommended amount, not a finalized agreement in place with that at this point.
So are they, I don't want to say, are they sort of bluffing us with the 14? Because last year they came forward with a number of about 11% and it ended up dropping.
Yep.
But a lot of that is not, like, a lot of, they're not cutting, they're going after their E&D. It's not,
And now their E&D is significantly lower than.
It is.
you know.
They don't have enough E&D.
Yeah.
They could take their E&D down to 0 and still not finance their deficit. Because they are not cutting, they're adding positions, and some of those are high dollar positions. And that stuff is not on the table at this point. She's
The
just,
number of FTEs they've added compared to the number of students they added doesn't add up.
it does not. It does not.
But the use of their E&D is similar to what we're doing.
Well, right.
It's like
Both my chicken.
we're plugging holes, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's,
Well, we were always very clear on our use of free cash. I never thought the school was very clear on that. I was always in the impression that they cut rather than.
That is the way they presented
Yeah, they would,
it.
but in the end, they were actually moving the money and not cutting it.
No, they took money out of there. They made some adjustments last year, but they took a chunk of change out of E&D, so they didn't have to make any changes, and they made the number work. This year,
No, they don't have the E&D
they
to
don't
do
have
that.
the E&D in there to finance that, and so, you know, she's here with 14%, and we're going, great. How you
Good
gonna
luck.
do that, right?
Yeah.
And no, and coming out of that budgetary discussion, another working group we had was that would we be willing to do something similar to what they're proposing to our neighbor in Groton? And the proposal with Groton was a 5-year, $10 million override. So every year, $2 million for 5 years consecutively. Which, as we all know, that sort of builds on one another. So it's $2 million this year,
Yeah.
$4 million increase, 6, 8, 10. Obviously, we'd be at 30% of that. At least I would hope. But even 30% of $2 million is double what we couldn't get approved for our municipal override request last year.
Right.
Yeah, but Groton doesn't do overrides.
They're good.
They're doing one now.
Well, they did one for the school, or that was an
The last
exclusion.
override, we did it, they didn't.
Are you talking about approval?
Yeah, the last two overrides.
Oh, you mean,
School,
I thought you
not
meant,
the building.
yeah. No, they presented them, but the
Yeah,
town didn't
for
vote
the
for it. Yeah.
school, and they were threatening us with a super town meeting.
Yeah,
We passed it, they didn't.
right.
So it's two paths forward, basically. We have to have a budget that meets the threshold that once we have a number from them, and that'll be a sad budget.
Sad budget.
A really
Yeah.
sad budget. And then I guess we as a town have to decide, you know, is there a tolerance or a willingness to do an override for, let's say, half of 14%, 7% of the school budget? Just spitball here. And
We have no other options.
Yeah, I mean,
we're
otherwise
we're not going to negotiate the school down to 3% for
No.
sure. So,
Municipally, we're down to, we have a $350,000 override. Once we include the schools, it's up to 1.1.
So what percentage?
No, it's higher than 350, but I think it's in the 400s.
What percentage of our budget for this?
66% with the 14% number now.
Oh, it is 400, you're correct, 399.
Yeah.
That pie chart was,
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, okay, that's-
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah. where it's typically been 60,
But that's-
63.
399 includes 6%.
school
to
chunk.
schools, so.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw, for this fiscal, the town side saw a 2%, I think it was a 2% reduction in spending.
Good job.
Maybe this is in
That's
there.
good.
So if they're at 14, what's that number? It's probably in there.
1.1,
And then at 6%, we're short 400K. So
Yeah.
essentially, if they lock in at 14%, hypothetically, we got to come up with,
A lot.
yeah,
A sad,
a
big
really
number.
sad
Big
number.
number.
Oh, man. I'm gonna think of how to get
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I'm struggling.
My thought process here was obviously just thinking about this whole process. If we are going to have to go forward with a school override or an override driven by the schools, do we level fund the school year over year and have it all be one increase? So have them go for their override at their full value of what they need to go for the school, their increase from year to year. So they'll go for the full 14.5% instead of removing the 6% increase from our budget to cover our municipal costs and having the school go for their 14% increase.
I mean, the truth is, if you have $350,000 of
Providing them
additional,
no increase in their budget year over year. So we level fund them from 24 to 25, and then their increase, the full value of their increase from year over year from 24 to 25 goes to an override request. Right now,
I'm not a math person,
right
so
now we're
excuse me, but,
funding- Right now, we're funding 6% of that 14.5%.
right, yeah,
In the $400,000 deficit.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So instead of increasing or providing that additional funding of 6%, take that 6% back, allow the school to go on a 14.5% override request.
Okay.
And taking that 6% back into our municipal budget to be able to fund our needs. By reducing that cost and adding that funding there, we get a lot closer to home. We could
But what,
level fund at level service, or we could fund at level service.
what can we fund without an override? Because right now we're doing like level funding, but we have to do an override.
No, right now we're doing levels, this is where it gets into, right now we're doing level service,
And we're still
Still
at
short
400
400.
deficit
400K.
We're still short, right?
but that includes a 6.5% increase to
for the school.
Yeah, so what I'm
which is
saying,
above and beyond everything else that we're doing municipally. Municipally, we're
Yeah,
at
right.
2%.
Everything's at 2.5, yeah.
Yeah, relatively.
okay, so if we, because what I want to understand is that we're not, I mean, we're not looking at a 14% override, right? So like that was the original idea. We're looking at 14 minus 6%, but we're really looking at more than that because if we fund it at 6%, we're not,
but we can't fund it.
well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So what
We can-
what could we fund it
How-
at without an override?
How I would do it
3
is
maybe.
take the 400, take the
Yeah.
$402,000. Remove the 50, if we want to remove free cash, 50 grand annually, take the 50 grand out, that gets you to 352 new revenue. 64% of that number is what we can fund, because there's 64% of the budget. It comes out to about $225,000. I mean, that's one way to look at it.
And right now, based on what our percentage of the budget for the school is that we have to cover, is that going to go up at all next year? Like, do we have more students now than we did?
Well, it changes every year.
I don't,
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
all I
It's been
can,
going up.
all I'm
It has
judging,
been, yes, it has.
all I'm judging it on now is the number they gave me, which is
Yeah.
based on what they believe the split's gonna be.
Just looking at the town, I'd say we've added a few more houses than we've subtracted houses. I can't tell you how many people are living in them, but
Yeah.
it's sort of,
They did
Right.
say there's a possibility of that number shifting slightly.
That's just a way to look at it. If the school,
Excuse me, thank
if the school is going for an override that is extensive and I believe a little bit egregious to what we're normally seeing here, allow them to float that out on their own. If they want to increase their budget year over year, and this is the amount, and we can't cover it, and we allow them to present that budgetary increase at town meeting.
Let them present the number, but at the end of the day, we still have to pay our
people in our share.
share, our assessment, and
But the override is necessary, but I guess to remove the municipal aspect of an override. But this is a school
This-
override. They need 14.5% from last year. They need that increase. And then level funded, level service, not level funded, sorry, level service year over year, with our minor increases that are within our budgetary restriction.
So you're suggesting that the school committee would present that. The 14% is what is for the district. So the 23% of
into
that
buckets.
14% is the amount that they would be asking Dunstable for. You know what I'm saying?
Our portion is 14.5%. I believe Groton's increase is more.
Is it? Oh, so that's already
That's
counted
our
for.
part of our.
Okay.
The increase is 14%, 14.5% to us.
That's all right.
There's a 16 and change, right? Yeah.
Oh,
So Groton's
okay.
is going up even more than ours. And there's a chance that happens, but we can't.
Well, they're asking
Yeah, I
looking
mean,
to
I
do a
get it.
very
We
big one.
have to go through the
Yeah,
motions, but
yeah.
I mean, that's, I don't even know if Farm, they're gonna have to need another override for Farm Ridge, or is that all good, all set?
Already at
think they-
capacity.
So we can, so basically right now is what we had, if we provided level funding. Last year, we provided the school district in fiscal year 24, 8,292,000. Right now, our estimated is 8,762,000 is what we had put in for our 6% increase. If we remove that 6% increase, obviously that is enough for us to fund our municipal needs. We could probably get to a point where if we said our increase is 3%, that's all we can do. That's what our receipts are allowing us to do. We probably get to a point where we're almost breaking even with a projected budget towards town meeting. As we're looking towards fiscal year 25 budget, we could say that if we provide the schools with 3%, this would be our budget that actually meets the requirements, that we can only do this much for the schools and the rest has to be an override for the school system. To kind of take the municipal aspect out of the increase that we'd be requesting.
So we take the money from the school right now,
We're not taking the money from the
Yeah,
school, we're level funding.
level funding.
Yeah.
So we're level funding and we're meeting the needs of our town, so we don't
Correct.
need an override for the town side,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all one budget. I mean, the school
Yeah.
item, but
Well, here's my question, right? So if this, which I think is I think that's a great idea to look at. And I think that so what happens if we pass it and Groton doesn't?
Then,
They go back to the drawing
They go
board
back
and
to-
retool.
so
Figure it out.
it would go back and they'd have to reassess their budget based upon what Groton is able to afford at that point in time, and that would reduce our assessment.
Okay, and
So
what-
if they reduce our assessment, that additional money would just ultimately roll over to fiscal year 26 free cash.
like our percent, our override would be contingent upon Groton, right?
No,
So we wouldn't have to go back and do another override if Groton came up with some kind of a plan.
no,
But we'd only have to fund it based on whatever they ultimately agree to.
yes.
What if they went to a super town meeting? What does that mean for us?
So-
We passed it, so it doesn't mean anything.
The school district.
Yeah, it's
calls-
the district calls the town meeting. And there'll be a warrant article on it and this budget would be there, but the likelihood of that happening, given the fact that Groton is a significant force in the district, is pretty slim. Pretty slim. We've done school overrides before and they were not successful.
Dunstable has,
We have.
they've been successful.
some have and some haven't.
We've had operational overrides for the school district. The ones that have made it through have been the debt exclusions.
No, but I went back and looked at it. We were Dunstable's very supportive of school overrides.
They are.
Groton is not.
Yeah, the last time, Dunstable did pass it and Groton didn't.
But I think
Right.
we go back to the most recent vote, it took a few tries.
Well, that was.
Yeah,
that's-
yeah, right.
And it was painfully close.
That was.
Yes, it was. 2 votes, 4 votes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's the same topic, as much as we're, in my mind, subject experts in this room, like we understand what we're talking about. When we do get to town meeting, we get to a point where we're not understanding it. They look at a school as school as school. It doesn't matter if it's that exclusion override.
Yeah.
Right,
That's
doesn't
all.
matter.
That's all it is.
Well, especially if you were talking about, you and I, if a debt exclusion's 30 years, it's like the life of most of the people that, it may as well be, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not gonna be here for another 30 years.
What if? I'll see if I'll.
What if? Way old, way old.
But yeah, it's just an idea or a concept that I think we should probably consider just to be able to get to a point where we're covering our costs based upon our increases that we're able to afford. And then if there's a driver that pushes us beyond what we're capable of affording, then we allow that driver to be the reason. If we get to a point where we continue, I think, down this path here, where then we have to make the decision if we're gonna attach our municipal override to the school override, or do we have two independent overrides that exist? So if we carry that 6%, we're short 400,000, regardless of what happens, we're short 400,000. If we go with the schools, then we're at 1.1. So we could ask, separately, like, here's how much we need for the town, and here's how much the school needs, or we can combine them together and say, well, 1.1. Again,
It'd be two ballot questions then?
there were two ballot questions.
You can do as many as you want. You could even do,
Let people
by
choose
department.
between,
You
yeah.
can do a menu of
We
options,
can do
whatever.
Here's one separate, here's one combined, here's we vote for them.
Right.
I mean, not to like railroad specific departments, but I'd be tempted, like, because we know you have to present a budget that's balanced from the start,
Correct.
one way or the other. And if the school number, like I said, is 10, and it means you're down to, do people want less police? Do they want a library? Do they want a fire department? Do they want public works? Like,
We've already pared back both of those, 3 of those.
but categorically, our police department is second to none compared to the market basket. I don't know, like, we're grasping at straws here. We got to get creative. Like, we have a library and culture and rec that's, again, second to none. Like,
Why?
why?
How many of those towns have
I don't understand why the
numbers
library,
have-
what makes that so expensive?
But like, if those things are higher than the median of that comparable communities based on DLS, then perhaps we have to look at ourselves and take inventory
Well,
again.
I would like to know how much, I would like to look at the number of calls the fire department gets, the number of calls, because we used to see that data. I haven't seen it in years now.
But they do more than just respond to calls. They do,
But
yeah,
at some point,
so-
you've got to measure the need somewhere, somehow, right? So even at work, like we have to come up with monthly measures, and it doesn't explain the entire picture of what we do, but it gives it some sort of a data point that allows us to understand, is the need and why they're looking for that need on the night shift or whatever happens to be.
But the fire, they're not our budget buster. They're on the lower end of things.
Yeah, no, but I'm
Yeah.
going back to the police department. We used to
Well, the
get-
police,
We used to
yeah.
get a report with the number of, just something that told us what they were dealing with, and I haven't seen that in years.
Well, and
Well, we can ask the chiefs to provide that, sure. Yeah.
and it's really more size than anything else, because we got to present something that doesn't have an override within it, because there's a
Right,
world
we
where
have
it
to.
doesn't work.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we saw that this past year where we said to the 9th officer, hey, we paid for you to be trained, but unfortunately we no longer have a position for you.
Yeah.
Like, which is terrible because he's such a strong performer. Like, that stinks. So we have to have sort of the plans in front of us. And really, I'm excited for doing it now rather than waiting till March,
Yeah.
right? I mean, in the
Yeah.
past, we're like scrambling together, trying
No,
to
it's really
piecemeal it, but we're taking a
great
lot of
we're doing this.
proactive steps now.
Definitely.
Traditionally, the school budget was always 60% or whatever of, the town, overall town budget. And when the new money came in, the school district would get 60% of that new money. Now, at 3%, does that give the school district, their portion and leave some for the town? Or, do we, are we at a point now where, there's nothing for the town and it all goes to the school? Does that make sense?
So what's the 3% based on?
Well, there was talk of,
What we
saying,
could afford is,
well,
So it's like
we'll do
our-
a 3%
okay.
increase,
Yeah.
for the schools, and anything more you need to, ask for. So is that, I'm asking, is that 3% increase that we feel we can afford, does that leave, money
Right.
on the table for, the town?
Yes,
So
right? It doesn't,
what I would say is, if you go with the 350,000 number as our new revenue, because we are taking out the free cash, you do 65%, if my math's right, that's about $225,000. If you give that to the schools, that gets them, if my math's correct, I did it quickly and kind of in a combination of my head and on my notebook, but it looks like to me a little slightly under 3% increase for the schools. And so if we did it that way, the remaining balance, so about $125,000 we would be able to use that on the town side.
So we still haven't satisfied the 3% common increase in most budgets. And we will have cut back on our debt exclusions, our free cash, our capital, whatever in town. And the school could still say, well, you only got us to 2.75%. We're still short 4.25% to the 6 or however much. Yeah, it's a zero sum game.
But
Like,
you're right.
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't have a lot of one-time revenue opportunities other than selling fire trucks because we don't have enough people to drive them. I know, but I'm like, and one time it doesn't solve our problem for things down the road, but I see the funding assumptions, and I know you're to 750. I hesitate to think that. What if it's 700 and not 750? Right? I mean,
Right.
there's a real world where
Yeah.
everyone's experienced inflation this past 18 months where we could get
Absolutely.
sideswiped.
Absolutely.
That's the majority of our local receipts are based on auto sales.
We are.
And
You can't buy a car right now, so.
We are far more aggressive in our local receipts
Yeah, I would-
estimate than I'd like to be, even for this year.
Yeah, I would
Definitely.
down just as a practice
Absolutely.
temporarily,
Yeah.
because again, if we somehow cobble it together and get close, and then we're short 50K, we're
Yeah.
back at the drawing board.
Yep, I completely agree with that.
What are other towns like? Is there? I know we're not the only one with this issue, but is there any chatter amongst the town administrators, municipal, MMA, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wish I was spending more time
Yeah, you're just too
in
busy.
that
So.
world, but since I've started, I really just,
Been too busy.
Yeah,
I just
that's
haven't
fair.
had time for,
Yeah.
and, this, for some of the
Enough
stuff,
time.
it costs money.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
So no, I haven't really been able to spend as much time on that stuff.
That's fair. So what should our marching orders here be? Is this for information purposes and then gather independently as groups and boards and things like that, or?
Well, I think maybe, but the problem gets worse because in addition to this, we've got a PFAS issue.
Mhm.
And, that is at this point, $1.9 million with another $3 million in costs that are ambiguous as to.
Well, the 3 wouldn't be ours alone.
No, it wouldn't be,
Yeah.
but it's ambiguous how you get to that number and how that shakes out. So even though the 3 is out there and a portion of that is ours, it adds to the 1.9
Oh,
million.
no doubt. I just don't want to scare
So now
everybody
you
saying
got-
it's another 3 million on
No,
top.
well,
of the
it's
2.
not, it's
Yeah.
not, but it's just, no matter how you look at it, it's that number plus this operational budget issue
Right.
combined is why I say we've never really been in the puddle this deep in all the years I've been doing this. You've got to have, that PFAS thing's got to get paid for. And the towns, this budget is not sustainable, even on the municipal side. It's really not sustainable. We've put no money into our stabilization fund in probably 15 years, I would guess.
Yeah.
The thing has got $315,000 in it. That's a joke. It's pathetic. And, if we needed money for something right now, that stabilization fund would get raided and it would be down to a couple $100. That whole point of that fund is to stabilize the town in the event of a crisis or a problem. So,
Can I say one other thing just about this community comparison? I want to point out two things. One, this is based on FY22 spending, because that's the data that was available. So there could be some shifts in this based on our most recent budget. And two, I will say this about the town. I mean, if you're going to invest your limited resources in some things, education, police, and library aren't the worst things you could be, focused on.
Yeah.
It's probably, if you're talking about like being good stewards of the limited resources you have, that's not a bad place to be investing money in. So I think that speaks well for the community over the, at least in 22, and I'm assuming it's pretty consistent. But those are the things that the town has prioritized. It makes a lot of sense, actually. So that's all.
As far as path forward and everything else, I think it's more informational tonight. We do have another working group on October 3rd.
Yeah.
And then we have all been invited, I'm assuming everyone saw that email, we've all been invited to a meeting with the school board, which also inclusive of Groton's select board and Groton's FinCom as well, to have I imagine some sort of a come to Jesus moment here where we say, this is, what are we doing here, folks? And how are we all going to afford it?
Are we going to jump in that?
I have not read that email yet, so I don't.
Was that, or not?
Today.
It's maybe this morning, I'd say. October 25th, Groton Select Board and Advisory, I think. Our meeting have asked to meet with the committee to review their budget numbers. And so town manager of Groton copied me on it to make us aware and to participate if the boards wanted to. Probably makes sense to if that time.
whose meeting is it? The districts or Groton's?
School committee
Okay.
meeting that Groton was asked to.
But we haven't been invited.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what he's saying. Haddad reached out to Jason.
Groton,
Yeah.
I don't have an email, but
copied me on the
maybe I missed
email in the case that we wanted to participate as well.
Okay, but the school district didn't invite us.
The school
Mark.
district didn't invite Mark.
Sometimes
They didn't invite Mark.
No, Mark was asking.
What is that? Yeah.
So Brian.
No, no.
The-
Mark emailed the schools and asked if they could meet on the 25th with them. And he copied me on it.
The
So that we could be
manager
included.
requested the audience of the
Yeah.
school district. And they invited,
Requested the
they
audience.
invited Groton Select, Groton FinCom, Dunstable Select, Dunstable Advisory to that meeting.
And Ron.
And Ron.
Do we know, thinking a little bit off topic, do we have any expiring debt? Something to tell people, hey,
Next
like,
year, not
next-
25.
not 25, okay.
25.
I know this was
And most of it-
You definitely get
Yeah.
2 out of 3 of us to agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, that's town side, that's not school.
I think it
Yeah,
could,
yeah, I
if you
understand that.
suggested such a
No, a lot
thing.
of it's been retired.
Yeah, I get that.
You would need a town meeting vote to approve it, but
Good job, by the way, with the presentation.
We voted on that. I kind of, at that point in time, I was a little bit against that, but actually the door swings real quick. Give it a thought that
If you
we had spoken at some point in time, outside here, it's talking about potentially town property, potentially develop a little town-owned property to be able to be utilized as, again, to be one-time funding, but yeah. The one thing you said to do 2 out of 3.
Joan?
Well, and the reasoning for that, in my opinion, So you're looking to do a one-shot deal, sell a lot. You're a real estate guy. What does that go for?
250.
250. 250 isn't even going to tackle half of what our deficit is. Now you build out a house. Now you got 3 kids there. And how much does each student cost to go to the school?
50,000.
Okay. So, and how much revenue are you getting from that house?
About 12,
Okay, doesn't work,
12
does
on
it?
$1 million house.
So yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna, any house we sell, we're gonna say they have to go to private school.
You fund your own kid?
And then
Yeah,
we get-
yeah,
and
okay.
then
Put
we
it,
get
it's a
private
deed
school.
restriction that your kid goes to private school.
The catch is you're getting nothing from it now, though.
But
Okay.
it doesn't put us into debt.
I got a question from the audience.
The math doesn't work.
Joan?
It didn't-
I
no.
agree.
Yeah.
Short term.
I just have a PFAS question here. Now that we have approved and approved the regional agreement, does Constable still get the $1 million?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Oh, with the PFAS?
It's in the deal. It's in the
Yeah,
number.
that's in the deal. Yeah.
I wasn't clear about that. I thought that the only way originally
Cost
get
2.9.
that was if Groton got to do it their way.
But are we
Yeah.
a school player?
No, we're not. We're a
We're like a school
23%.
district player.
Actually, with
Yeah.
$1 million, it's like 14.5, something like that.
At the end, it's not a bad deal,
No, I understand that, I just.
but it's still a significant number that's going to hit us. And when you look at this, which is why we want to have this discussion tonight, because there's some decisions going to have to get made. We can wait until January or February and make those, but that's just, that's why we've got this working group trying to get to a point where, the school is going to have to figure out what they got to do to make this thing work. What was their percent last year of an increase?
And that was 7.
6.5,
7?
Was it?
Seven?
I mean, that's not even sustainable.
We did last year because they did,
We did.
and we went out.
Started at 11, we came down to 6.5.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
6.25.
We did go along with that. That's why it's sort of a little bit of the driver behind my recommendation to either level fund or provide funding as an increase similar to what we're doing within our town, to be able to cover our budget, be able to present a budget that works, that a balanced budget as part of our town meeting, and then to have that driver of the override be out there to have that override. We can fund ourselves municipally, and we don't have to look at additional cutbacks this year. We are going to need a municipal override. There's no question about it. It's coming. We've done. I think the combination of both boards has done a lot to avoid those overrides over the last 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And we're now at a point where we kind of can't make it, but maybe we can squeeze through one more year. If possible.
We love those words. One more year.
One more. I've been hearing
One
that
more
for
try.
decades, yeah.
Let's just patch it together.
But it does get, in all honesty, it gets, we couldn't have 300, we talk about 1.1.
I think, I understand what you're saying, but I think some piece of that has to do with how well educated everybody was on it. Overrides are pocketbook issues, right? If people just go, I don't want my taxes going up, that's that.
We tried our cookies and tea, and then we put up.
Yummy
right,
cookies.
we
Those are
did.
great cookies, though.
That was
Market basket.
good spread.
We
Lemon seltzers?
It goes to this year too as well. I mean, we're talking about this with both boards, advertised discussion regarding budget, overrides and PFAS, and we see the room that we're surrounded in, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be a challenge to get the information out there, there's no question about it. And I think the working group, part of that was coming out of it, we need to get the word out, we need to have more people, we need to have someone who is able to advocate for that measure once it becomes a warrant article, because we're not allowed to, and it becomes challenging for ourselves as our own boards. If somebody does show up or watches a YouTube video, we can't advocate for it.
No, you can't. You can only put the information out for what it is.
Correct.
Which we did last year. I mean, we were so close to a fine line of,
We were, yeah.
of advocacy versus information, factual stats.
All right. Want to move on here? Special town meeting, Mr. Jason?
Yeah, yippee, November 13th. Have a motion to call the meeting, to open the warrant tomorrow. And as you know, we expect not that many articles, but we do expect an article on the town center district zoning district. We have talked about potentially including the PFAS debt exclusion, as long as we can come to a number on the warrant. And then maybe one or two other minor things, like I know we have some prior year bills that need to get paid. So I'm proposing November 13th. And
Is there redistricting around, is that around other potential businesses coming into? or is that-
No, it's not redistricting, it's a change of the language within one of the sections for wine, yeah.
It has
An
to do
establishment
with,
not having to brew or,
The businesses.
yeah.
there's a store that wants to open and sell wine, and that language is written in such a way that, yeah, it's restricting that. But let's just go back on the talking point of the override, all right? And this is just discussion, all right? At some point here, we've got to come to an understanding of, what the override's going to look like, and how successful we're going to be at getting them done, and what energy and effort it's going to take to get this done, and how successful we're going to be if we wait until May to do a PFAS exclusion, debt, and an operational override. I'm wide open on that. My heart and my mind says to me that that's going to be an automatic no. And even if we take the PFAS number for what it is, and there was a lot of talk the other night about how to pay for that, right? And so typically when we debt exclude it, we go to the state and we borrow money from the state and put the money in, and we amortize that over however many years, right? 5 years, whatever you want, right? And so, Paul from Pepper was saying, no, you just get the money and put it in. That's true, except that in that first year, that entire amount hits the tax rate. And that's just going to put culture shock onto a lot of people, because you're paying off almost $2 million in debt in a single year if you do that.
For one thing.
Yeah, for one thing.
You're not funding the schools, you're not funding.
No, it's just for the PFAS problem.
PFAS.
Yeah, right.
So when we had that, it was a hallway conversation. We had that hallway conversation. I listened to what he said, but the truth is, we've never done that, and we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it now either, because it just tends to culture shock everybody when they get that number. So over the next few weeks, as we get to the school district coming to what might be a real number, because this is 14%, and then coming up with somewhat of a final number for PFAS, that $3 million number is just kind of, and I said that the other night, it's ambiguous as to, I don't know, but that if we pass 1.9, because we understand that number now, and then this 3.1 million number comes out, and we got to pay 23% of that, we're back in asking for another override. People are going to look at us going, I thought, what was that override
Right,
for?
yeah, so we need to get that number sorted out.
It's got to get to, so sometime in the next sometime in the next few weeks.
Well, when does the warrant close?
so in the motion, the 16th of October, I thought.
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay, so you gotta figure it out by then.
By the 16th of October. Yeah, but if we,
No, you just have to put it on the warrant. You could always take it off. Right?
Well,
you can take no action.
technically, the number does not have to be on
The warrant needs to
It's
be in the motion.
motion, but it does not need to be in the article language. We can, if we have it, we can put it there, but we don't have to.
Well, the only thing that having the number in there, it was enough
Yep.
conversation that people may show up to.
Very
Right,
true.
that's
Very
true. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Without
And-
a number, they might think it's nothing.
Well,
And
and,
they may also think it only affects the people that are on the water department. I don't have a town water.
well, this
Yeah,
is
yeah, we've
so-
heard that before.
Yeah, no kidding. But talk about culture shock. If we are not able to go forward and get this agreement and get a solution for this problem, the DEP is going to step in and they will do the consent order like they did with us with our water system. And they will get that fixed and then hand us a bill, and they don't care really what it's going to be. They want it fixed in the fastest, most proper way.
We've
So
been down
this
that
is,
road.
we've been
with
down
them
this road,
before.
so this is a
You're up against the wall.
must-have. We have to do this, one way or the other, it has to be done.
Is October 16th a reasonable amount of time to finalize that number?
It's
Depends on how
close.
well it goes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, you
can't-
could.
We can't push out that 16th date anymore because we have to post the warrant 14 days before. We need time to prepare it and all that stuff. So that's kind of, I think that's the latest.
That's if we
Push
keep-
the deadline.
But that would be if we keep the November date as our town, that November.
Very true.
So we could bump out the town meeting date a couple of weeks and get some leeway on the front end of this, right?
Yes, we could.
You want to ask the town for a lot of money right before Christmas.
Yeah.
and have a town meeting the week of Thanksgiving, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, all the stuff's on the table.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't have, my crystal ball hasn't been working with this for a long time.
Well, Thanksgiving's early it's the 23rd, so it's the next week.
We actually have an extra Thursday after it.
Or people are
Yeah.
in a giving mode and they're going, let's just give them what they
Good
want.
time to get things.
It's Christmas.
It's
They need 14%. Let's just hand it over to them. Merry Christmas from
Ho, ho, ho.
Dunstable.
Yeah,
Actually, by then, you know what, like, the town of Groton's having their special in October. So by then, we're gonna have.
We'll know it.
we're gonna
Yeah,
have
right.
to
Right,
know and
right,
think
right.
about it. Yeah.
That's a good.
That's
yeah,
true.
That's a good
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will help us out a
It's
lot.
gonna be wrapped up.
So they have a special election for the.
they needed that
We're
exclusive
gonna know.
60 from, yeah,
And we're also.
For the debt exclusion. For the PFAS.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
And if they
So
fail,
that should work.
PFAS.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
and if they
So
fail,
that should work.
But we will have had to negotiate the
If
phase
that
two,
P-
number,
if that PFAS thing fails,
which is the 3.1
The
million.
3.1, yeah.
My guess is we're on
because
the hook
people
for
are just saying,
next.
that money is gonna come out of the district. Because it goes back to what Leah said, where
2.9
this-
million.
the DEP will issue a consent decree. And then you're gonna have, at that point, the consent decree is very specific. We went through that here. They were here, they sat in this room, and they lectured to us. It was not a pleasant meeting, and they issued us a consent decree for the water department, and it was very specific and had timing around it, and you don't, they're gonna control it, you won't, because that's the whole point of that. They'll take control of it, so.
you can't control the budget.
We should
No, yeah,
ask for it.
they're gonna fix it and send you the bill.
It won't be cheap.
It won't be cheap. It wasn't here either. There was, I think there was like, they wanted $50,000 for bottled water or some crazy number like that, Mary Jude.
For
wanted it.
here?
Yeah.
Oh,
When we were doing
yeah,
our
yeah.
water issue, and then the Pond Street pump station was ready to puke, and they said, what's your contingency plan? And we're going, we didn't have one. And
Buckets.
so, yeah, that was it.
And for this PFAS stuff, is there any, like, I mean, I know it's not for a mandate, but is there any state or federal grants available that
There-
can be applied for?
There are, and you can get some forgiveness from it.
Right, reimbursed?
Yeah, but you got to put the money up first.
Yeah.
And so in a municipal setting, they need to go get that money first, and then they'll get whatever come back, at some point in time.
Yeah.
However that works out, but you got to put the money up first. So there is.
It'd be interesting to know what that number is.
I think we had some sense of that, didn't we? What the state
Thought
was?
about 20%.
Loan forgiveness?
Littleton, the most recent example, I guess, was 20%.
Was the ballpark, yeah. On a $22 million project in Littleton.
Could be worse.
Yeah, it's
Well,
ironic.
it's
that
Could
money.
be worse here.
They implement these mandates, but they don't give you a solution to fund it.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing more like,
It's an unfunded mandate.
Yeah,
it's a paradox.
Well,
Like,
Yeah,
Well, we went to a thing about that with with
Yeah, we
Diane
did.
Zoglio, with the state auditor. And they're kind of picky about what they consider to be state mandates, unfunded mandates. And they have this,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that they don't consider to be,
A mandate.
like this would not be considered an unfunded mandate.
It wouldn't be
No.
considered a mandate at all, so you gotta clean it up.
Yeah.
It's like having a roof leak at the
Yeah,
school.
but if the town, I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, the state decided that they need to test for it. But if they hadn't done that,
But, well, no, we wouldn't be here, but
I mean, granted, it's the right thing to work, I understand that.
the issue got started with the feds. The EPA is what kicked this off, saying, hey, because if you look at and you watch the media, you're hearing about all the firefighters' equipment, the turnout gear is laced with PFAS. That's a national problem. EPA said, okay, you got it there, it's in the, and when, I will tell you, if you read the report from Tiger and Bond, that water isn't just contaminated marginally, it's extensively contaminated.
Oh, at the high school?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it is.
It's
nuts.
extensive. We're not talking about slightly over the minimum. We're like way over it.
Way over.
Scary.
And the number for EPA is changing for what we have to meet. It's dry. They're lowering the bar to be now 4 parts per trillion. Right now it's at, what is it? It's 20? 20 parts per
We're like
million is
450.
considered acceptable, and they're dropping it down to 4. Yeah.
So
Well,
the
they're
net
talking
might
about
clean up, it might get,
So we have to do a design that,
Clean it up.
we're designing stuff to address the 4.
Yeah, right. It will be.
It's like a fighter jet. You got to be able to change it up and improve it over time.
Nothing else to find, so.
There you
Like
go.
a fighter jet, as long as you don't drive it into the swamp
Well, I mean, it's neither here nor there.
and then not know where it is.
You got out safely.
Do we have a motion on, do we have a motion on the opening of the town meeting warrant?
Sure. I'll move to open the warrant for the special town meeting scheduled for Monday, November 13th, 2023 at 7 PM. On Thursday, September 21st, and to close the special town meeting warrant on Monday, October 16th, 2023 at 4 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We checked with the school to use their space for this, right? Okay.
Tim, come on up.
All right,
Unless you're
let's go.
deciding you're going to bail. I'm like, oh my
Run.
God.
Special
Yeah,
town
yeah.
meeting,
Yeah, you probably should have done that first.
Yeah.
we should have moved up. So we have,
this was all just a joke.
I wish.
let me bang my gavel.
You may, go ahead.
We have Tim Stewart, who is interested in joining the Finance Committee.
Advisory board.
I don't know about that one. I'm going to pull that bylaw out. Tim, welcome.
I'll move to appoint Timothy Stewart to the advisory board for a term to expire on May 15th, 2024.
Your resume was
Yeah,
fantastic.
resume's
So,
legit,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Do
So,
we have a second?
yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I wasn't going to let him squirm.
So you don't want
Can't
to,
leave
you want to
now.
introduce yourself? Yeah.
Moved over at Chapman Street when they built that up over there. So, yeah, I have 3 kids in town. On the school system.
Yeah.
So, just looking for the opportunity. Well, thank you for the opportunity to use my skills for public service. It's been, I don't mind to, get more involved in my community and help where I can. Finance committee is exactly where I think I can help. So,
Thanks, Tim.
thanks.
There's a couple of, the state has a group called the Association of Town Finance Committees. And we are still members, I think, right? And you can get onto that website and learn a little bit about municipal accounting, which is kind of where I was back in the day. Because municipal accounting is very different from corporate America. You just don't, you can, and they have Association of Town Finance Committee has meetings, I think they're in Billerica. They're at Billerica Town Hall or whatever. And I went over there a couple of times, but you can learn a lot about it. We're talking about debt exclusions, capital exclusions, overrides, and all that stuff that you gotta, it helps to learn that. And you can get smart on it just by going to the ATFC, Association of Town Finance Committees, their website, and pulling up some of that stuff.
Yeah, I have to, I just found out about them like 6 months ago. we figured out, like, well, why are we spending this money on this?
Yeah.
What is it? So our only budget item, we didn't realize that it was for this organization, so.
It's right.
If you call them, and I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna do it next week, call them, they'll give you better access than just the outside of the website.
And you can dig in and do, just, it'll do a lot for you because it's very different. A municipal account is very different. And then Proposition 2.5 is just all these discussions tonight are around Proposition 2.5. And you get to learn a little bit about how to make all that work and what's driving us and motor vehicle excise receipts. And I spent a lot of time with Association of Town Finance Committees when I first got on and learned a lot about it. And it's been the same thing. Proposition 2.5 has been around since 79, I think, or something like that. 80, Joan, yeah. So Barbara Anderson, she's passed away not long ago. Yeah.
It was her, right?
It was her.
Really, I don't know.
Citizens for Limited Taxation. Yeah. So welcome.
Yeah.
And
So-
obviously, you can get the gist from talking to this group that we all work together. And if you have a question or you've got something going on that you're scratching your head, just reach out to any one of us anytime and we'll help you out.
I'll definitely, I have your email address, but I'll get you on the email distribution and everything, and then we'll grab your phone number afterwards. When we text around, just for the most part with the advisory board, we tend to meet about on a monthly basis. It gets a little bit crazier as we get close to the actual town meeting. So a special town meeting, there's a little bit we have to vote on, it's not overly involved, but it's more towards anything that has to do with finances. So relatively, during the summer it's pretty light because we've just finished our budgetary season. As we start to move into fall and winter, that's when we start to pick things up. As we go into springtime meetings are big annual town meeting. So it tends to be where we spend more time together than we.
Want to.
But generally speaking, it's usually a couple-hour meeting. We just, well, once a month where we sit down and go through all the different things that have happened, changed, conversations with glad you wanted to be a part of it, and
Yeah, me too.
it'll be interesting to hear. You just sworn in and moving forward. But I think we put a little bit of the cart before the horse, but we'll as an advisory board, we can entertain a motion to appoint Tim to the advisory board. Anybody want to make it? So move second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All right.
So next step, you'll receive a letter from Sue to come to the town hall and get sworn in by Sue. Right? And,
Just have to move from
yeah.
one desk to the other.
yeah. Yeah.
All right.
And then he'll get a town email address too, or not? No, they're not enough. Not enough, okay. I thought you guys had one. No? All right, sorry, never mind, use your own email.
It costs too much money.
Yeah, right.
Times are tough.
Yes.
All right, moving along. Item 6, treasurer collector update discussion.
I had this on the agenda just in case we were ready. Next Tuesday we'll be ready for you to consider a candidate.
Perfect,
Okay.
great, that was quick.
Item 7, town hall Halloween decor.
I'm back. So this is give you a general idea of what we would be doing, except for the lights on the front of the house. So just
Yeah, fun.
Oh, that's cool.
so it'll be very there's a couple windows upstairs. We would do like a screen with some backlighting and then some soft lighting in the front. We talked about not being disruptive to neighbors.
No flashing neons and.
Yeah. Exactly. So Andy
Those
Snyder
fog lights
is
that
the-
like.
is the guy who does lighting design. You guys might be familiar with Alice Isaac, who's one of my local artists. So her son, he's very excited to do this for us. So
Okay, yeah, it'll be fun.
Is there a motion? Or do we need a motion? Or I'll make a motion to approve the Halloween decor at a predetermined date reviewed by our town administrator's office.
Do you have a second?
Second,
All in favor? Aye.
That's not gonna cost us
$100 million.
Just electricity.
Yeah.
We have an override at special town meeting.
Yes, we can.
It's a $1 million utility bill.
Okay.
We gotta
Item
knock off these minutes. We've been putting this off for a
8
while.
is meeting minutes. So we have meeting minutes from 8:15, 8:22, 23, 28, 9:12.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from 8:15, 2023, 8:22, 2023, 8:28, 2023, and September 12th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. New business, old business?
Nope.
Good to go.
Negatory?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second? All
Second,
in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Great job.
What's this thing? Your override thing?
Yeah, so
I had
bottom
one.
part is